Okay, so I'm gonna go through the process of creating that katana handle that we were talking about. I'm going to create a cube. Now I want to control, first of all, I want it to be zeroed out. There we go. I want to erase on the x-axis the interior faces and then maybe adjust the proportions a little bit. Maybe something like this. So this is my section of the cube. Now from here, what I'll do is most probably introduce a couple of edge loops here so I can use the insert edge loop tool. And if I go to my tool settings, I can set, for example, like a 3 edges like that. And now when I'm going to smooth it, let's do something like this. I get a nice smooth transition. Now going from the front view, next thing I can do is create a cut across it. So I can come in here. It's a little bit off. I want to make sure that I start from the corner perhaps and then go here. So now that I have this cut, I can double click and modify as not asset but convert, and then polygon edge to curve. There we go, there's our curve. And then I can duplicate this curve and move it a little bit to the left, and that will give me the humble beginning of my strap that I'm going to create. Now if I open up these meshes, you see what I get is them to open over here. So that's fine. But I think I would prefer it if they would open at the very top, and I'll show you why. So if I go here and I go spacebar curves and then move seam function, and I can only do it on an individual. Let's see if I can select my curve. There we go. So curves, move seam function. Okay. Looks like let's hide this guy. Delete history. There we go. So let's try this again. Move seam. There we go. What is the problem? Select a single curve point. So that's what I need to do. I need to select a curve point and then shift right click. I can't do it here, but I can go here and move my seam. There we go. And the same thing I can do here. So curve point and then curves, move seam. There we go. So now my seams are at the very top, and I can check that by opening those curves. There we go, they're open. And then from the front, I'm going to paint my new profile curve here. So I'm gonna go curves or create, curve tools, and then pencil. So now I can go from one side to the other, create some sort of a situation like this. Now I will activate snap to curve or to edge and try and snap it to this curve if I can. Let's see. There we go. And over here we can do the same thing, and I want to snap it to the first or last points, but if it's going to be the first, make sure that both of them are the first points on these curves. And now I can come in and close them again. So now let's use our bi-rail tool. So bi-rail 1 first. Let's see here. There we go. First, we'll ask you to select the profile curve. So there I go, selecting the profile, and then select 2 rails. 1, 2. And there we go. We get something like this. Pretty high res, but it also is high res because we started from a high-res curve. So here we can control the amount of subdivision. So I kind of want to take it down a bit, right? I don't want it to be like super high res. This makes more sense to me. And then I'm gonna go mesh display, reverse my normals, and there we go. We have ourselves a rail that goes alongside our initial curves, and we can control it, right? We can control it like this. And I can kind of play around with soft selection. If it's way, way, way too big, like it is right now, I can really lower it and then go from here. So I can do this, and I can do that, and so on and so forth, right? We can disable here the curve mode and just move things around. Right? And we're getting a strap. Now we can have this strap on this side, but we could also select our curves, right? And then if they both of them have the same pivot point, it would be pretty easy to duplicate them and then snap them to the opposite side. The only difference here is, looks like I moved one of them, so we might want to freeze and reset transforms, and then actually, there we go. Freeze and reset transforms, and then mirror them to the opposite side, and then we can come here and create a new unique curve for this side, or alternatively, like we can repeat the process, create a surface, or alternatively we could just reuse the surface that we created and mirror it to the opposite side. Now, because it's a high res, we really don't care if it's the topology is like perfect at this stage. This is good enough, and we can definitely use the sculpting tool to adjust it and make it do what it needs to do. For example, here we can move this guy around a little bit more and create a situation like this, and we can keep editing them. We can come in here and actually do some real sculpting, even take it into ZBrush and do some real sculpting in order to make them intersect a little bit nicer. Make sure that your transitions are fairly linear, so straight line from the point of tension and back, and you'll have yourself a nice katana wrapping geometry, kind of like this. And now, when we're done, we can take our original mesh. So let's bring it back up, and we can have these guys duplicated. So we can even group them and then just duplicate our group if we choose. So I move it just when the edges are about to touch each other. It's something like this. So 1.3, let's do 1.315. There we go, in the x-axis. And then we can Shift D a bunch of times, as many times as we need. And we can apply a deformer on all of this. If you remember, select all of those groups, go deform, and then lattice. And then we can change the settings here to have as many divisions as we need. And then we can convert those into their control points and, you know, do the thing. It might actually work better to deform it from the corners. So we can move it like this and raise it up a little and do the same thing on the opposite side. If there's a bit of a angularity to it, or if there's no angularity, then obviously you don't need to do that. Depends on the design, right? But often these handles would be a little bit more curved. We can try and bring them back together a little bit more flat. We can play around with the scale, all kinds of cool transitions we can make in this way. And then if we hide our lattice, then we get to see the entire surface. And then we can really come in and adjust these. Just make sure that you get the proportions right from the get-go. And when we're done, let's say the lattice is like we're done, we're happy with this, we can kill history and come in here, select specifically just these meshes. We can, and you might want to get rid of this extra edge here, but we can basically go to edge perimeter, and then we can go merge border edge. You can set a high tolerance, not too high though. Oh, and we want to combine them, of course, before we do this. So if I combine them, I'm just combining like part of them, just because to edge perimeter, merge border edge, and then let's see that we actually merged. And if we didn't, or if it didn't do it to all of them, you see here we have little areas where it didn't. We can do it again. Now we check, looks good. Now it's a single mesh, right? Now if we're looking at these guys, we got ourselves a single mesh. Let's hide our creation process. And now we have individual wraps. And it's all shaped. We can have the rest of our katana here for reference and make the whole angle situation work for us.